Hey guys, as with many crafting videos, we're going to start off with these dollar store skeleton army that I got for Halloween. These skeletons are great. Here's one I painted for Dungeon Crawl Classic. But we're going to be a little bit more sinister today. We're going to be using these for our Mutant Crawl Classic game. As you see here, here's a muscle figure that I've done. So the size is comparable. And we're going to be using these to make level 0 deaths. So guys, here's a close-up of the models that we get. We do get several figures, and as you can see, there are some mold lines. The plastic is very bendable. We can use a knife or a file to clean this up with. I'm probably going to use about 1 to 2 of these figures for this project today. So I'm going to start this project off with some E6000 to this plastic base. I have tons of plastic bases. If you don't have that, you can use like maybe some chipboard, cardboard, whatever works for you. I'm having a little trouble with this because earlier I put some super glue, so that's creating kind of a barrier. Not a problem. We'll goop this up. The excess will just act as Gore effects underneath the model. I want to say real quick, this is a great project for leftover models that you might have, like if you have arms or heads or legs. Great for casualty markers. So in this case, I'm going to use a piece of a muscle figure I had from an earlier project. I'm just going to arrange him on here like so. And of course, I'm going to take the dollar store skeleton and put him on there as well. What we're going for is like a laser blast effect, or maybe this guy's been dissolved. It's going to look really gory once we're done. So here's 3 bases I did. This probably took me 15 minutes, excluding the E6000 drying time. Again, just leftover bits and pieces from other projects. I'm going to take some earth texture Vallejo and put that around the base. And then we're going to prime everything using a bone white. We're going to allow that to dry and move on to our next step. I'm not going to go into big detail about the painting, but I will show you I'm using a nutmeg brown on the base. And because we primed this, the bone white color, you can see it's kind of light. So to tone that down, what I'm going to do is just go over it with a black wash. Here I'm using Null & Oil, but you can use any homemade black wash or black ink. It'll kind of look something like this. Once the washes have had a chance to dry, I like to go over it with a quick dry brush of a light color and then apply Vallejo pigments. I'm using burnt sienna and natural sienna for this process. As you can see, it brings things out very nicely on the base. And now we're going to start concentrating on the Gore effect. We're going to use some tissue paper for this. And what we want to do is fill in some gaps here. My technique for Gore starts with toilet paper and some watered down PVA glue. All I'm going to do is just put a couple of drops onto the sheet here. We don't have to use a lot of paper. I'm only using a half a sheet. I'm just going to ball it up. And we want this kind of wet, so I'm going to add a little bit more. And this is going to allow us to mold it. And what I also want to do is start tearing this off into smaller pieces like so. This is going to mimic chunks of flesh or muscle. It's going to look really nice when we start to add Gore effects to it. So here's our model, and what I'm going to do is start taking the toilet paper rolls, put them in there in the middle. It's going to mimic guts, or we're going to try for that look anyways. Just add a little bit of E6000 in there. And again, this may be a little messy, but don't worry about the E6000. It's just going to add to the Gore effect. There we go. And then we're just going to get our toilet paper and start applying it to the model. Here we go. And then we're just going to take another piece and put it there to the side. Like so. Alright, we're just going to allow that to dry, and then we'll come back and add the finishing touches. I allowed the E6000 toilet paper to dry, and then I went over it with a purple craft paint and some Citadel blood for the blood god. I'll be using this 5-minute epoxy next, and I'll be mixing it in this cup. I'll use this to stir it. Now we want to be very careful when using this. I'm not wearing gloves, but I highly recommend you do. Also, you want to use this in a well-ventilated area. Getting this stuff on you will not be good for your day. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out. For this project, a little goes a long ways. And I'm not going to mix it yet. I'm going to put this red ink inside of it. And we're going to probably add a little bit more. I just want to kind of see what it looks like when we start to mix it. Once we start stirring this, we've only got a few minutes before it starts to react. And I think this is going to be a little too light. So let's add a little bit more. Just let that sit down. Put a couple more drops. Here we go. And I'm thinking we're going to need to darken this up a little bit. Right now it's really, really bright. We're going to go for a more coagulated blood look. So I think what we might do is just add a little bit of burnt umber. And here's some ink. I'm just going to be very, very light with this. I'm only going to add about 2 drops. And again, I still need to move with this. I have plenty of time to work with it, but I do want to be very quick with it. And again, it's already darkening it up a little bit. Here we go. All right. Now I have a sheet of paper underneath this just because I don't want to get it all over my pad. When you're working with this stuff, please don't do it on anything that you don't want to get destroyed. And we're just going to pour this all over the model. Here we go. Make sure we cover a little bit of the toilet paper. And we can just kind of spread this out a little bit. Gravity will help with this, but while it's still fluid, we can brush it. I'm actually going to switch this up and just start using a brush here in a minute. We don't want to go too hard because we could damage the paint job underneath. So let's sit that down and we'll get a disposable brush. Here we go. And we'll just kind of help that down. Here we go. Now you will notice as this starts to dry, it'll become more stringy, and that's fine. We can actually use that to our advantage. Maybe kind of stretch it across the ground. Here we go. Oh yes, looking very nice. Make sure that you get up underneath the model. Here we go. And guys, I have my work computer next to me, so if you hear that go off, I apologize. And we're just going to allow that to dry. And while we still have some, we're going to also apply it to our other bases. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm starting to see lots of new subscribers. I greatly appreciate the viewership. If you liked the video, give a big thumbs up. And as always, subscribe and follow. Share this with someone that might like this content. Have a great and wonderful weekend and stay safe.